Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Bros, and today we're going to be talking about The Circuit, written by Francisco Jimenez. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, this work by Francisco Jimenez, The Circuit, is very interesting. The narrator of this work is Panchito, and Panchito really gives us an account about his family moving from Mexico and into California. His family, they're a very poor family. Life in Mexico was very difficult for them. And so his father, Papa, as he calls him throughout the story, and his mother, and several siblings, most notable, like in the story, basically the little siblings are very small. They don't really understand everything that's going on, and within the story, Panchito, his family, they move around a lot. The little kids, they're present, but they're not really aware. They're not really processing everything that's happening to them. The fact that they keep moving around in the story a lot is very like adventurous and explorative for them. So the little small siblings, they're part of the story, but their perspective is very different from the older kids. So Panchito gives us this narrative of, his parents, they moved from Mexico, they have no money, and they're they're immigrants, they're migrants, they're moving around from place to place. This is why this is called the circuit. They're moving around California from place to place like a current, just to find jobs here and there, just to find work and find a way of bringing in income to feed the family and to stay alive. At some points they had to stay in tents, living out in tents, finding food to eat out in the woods. This is not good living. You could think about, at times having shelter, at times not. So at times this immigrant family, they were homeless. If they find a place to sleep, they sleep. The father does have a car that he bought, but it's a used car. It's an old car that that gets them around, and basically, Panchito tells us about their poverty, how extensive it is, how over the top it is, and everything they had to do, where they had to sleep. It's really not a pleasant story. Basically, throughout the story, Panchito basically tell us that his father, and his brother Roberto, they pretty much move around. They can't go to school, so Roberto and Panchito, they have to go with their father to work. The little tiny kids, they can't work. So the father. Panchito and Roberto, they go from here picking strawberries, grapes, anything that needs to be picked. They go to these different farms in California, and they pick them for money. And they're making like $10, $15 here and there, and it's enough money to buy food, all the expenses that you need to survive. They don't have their papers, they're illegal, so it's pretty much depending on the season. It's kind of like they're kind of like birds. You know how birds, they migrate depending the temperature and the season. It's the same way with this family. They move around depending on the season, the crop season. Wherever there's work, that's where they go. So it's not really a comfortable life. It's not a nice life. And the I guess the center of the story that we get here is that Panchito loves education. His brother not so much. And their education keeps getting disrupted every time where they find they're in somewhere where they could learn and build on their education. They have to get up and move after a couple of months. 2 months, 3 months. You're already back on the road. Their boxes are packed, and their boxes are filled with their belongings. They're off and running to the next place, finding work. And so for Panchito and Roberto, it's a tough life. You're working 12 hours a day. You're young kids. You're not getting an education. You're falling behind in school. And Panchito loves school. He wants to get a good education. He's very smart, and yet he can't go to school because he has to work at a very young age to support his family. In the story, there's a bus that passes by, and the father tells the boys to run and hide because they didn't want to get in trouble for being out and not going to school because you can get in trouble for that. And so eventually, Panchito does go to school, though. Not his brother, though. Roberto is a little bit older, so he has to stay with his father to get more work and have more money to support the family. So Panchito, he goes to school. He's actually in the sixth grade. He asked to be in the sixth grade. There's a scene where he walks into the main office and he barely can speak English because he's shocked because he hasn't spoken English in so long when he gets there. And so Panchito, all of these things he has to process, the idea of falling back, the idea of not being at the same level as your peers, the idea of having to work, having to move around, never having any stability, never having your own room, never having any privacy. And it's very difficult. And being having a mother and father, and they're having kids. They keep having kids, and you have to support these kids. And there's no money, there's no home, there's they just have a car to their name, and really really low belongings. And so Pinchito's this kid that he's worried. He's stressed out because anything that goes wrong and their family life is pretty much in jeopardy because they have no papers, they barely speak any English, they're moving from place to place, and the farmers are taking advantage of them. They're paying them whatever they want because they know the immigrants have no other place to go. They have no other work to get. They have to do the farm work and pick the crops, pick the strawberries, pick the grapes. There's nothing else they can do. And so the workers, the farmers, they pretty much take advantage of these Mexican immigrants, this family here. They do get work at this place. They have to stay in this old, dilapidated garage. You could just call it a shed, basically. And there's worms and there's holes in the walls, and they clean it out. They put a mattress there. They throw a mattress on the floor, and the kids sleep there, and the adults make do. And Panchito, he did go to school. He makes friends with his teacher. The teacher was about to teach him, how to read, improve his vocabulary, how to play instruments. And this is this one instance when Panchito was about to become very, finally get some education, right? So finally build on his education and develop his reading skills. But ultimately, what happens is that as soon as he gets home after getting all this great news about his teacher, about getting help and learning how to read and all this kind of stuff, he goes home and his parents have packed up all the boxes and everybody's already packed and they're moving again. So he has to leave school once again and abandon his education because he has to support his family. That's the only way they can eat and survive. Um, and that's what happens. It's a struggling family, mother and father, immigrants from Mexico, trying to get a better life in the U.S. and California, but it's very difficult, very hard. They just keep moving around like electricity in a circuit from place to place to place. They're the backbones, picking all the crops. And if you think about electricity in terms of deeper meaning, in terms of analysis here, if we think about electricity, it moves around, right? It moves from place to place, powering things, and in many ways, just like how it would, electricity moves in a circuit. Um, you know, Mexicans and or this family, in of a way, is moving from farm to farm, picking all the crops, being pretty much the primary form of labor to pick the crops. The farmer makes a lot of money. This farmer sells them to other Americans, and they eat and they feed themselves. Because one thing that's always existed in American culture is that a lot of American citizens, they won't do farm work. They're not going to go in farms and pick crops. So a lot of times it's immigrants from other countries that are undocumented or that have maybe even work visas that the government has talked about sometimes, where immigrants come and pick the crops, and well, they help feed America. And so in some ways you can look at these people, they kind of behave like that within this short story, they just keep moving around from place to place, being the backbone of labor, and then moving from city to city, finding more work. And this very much stunts the development of these children. It stunts their development. It stunts their outlook in life. And Panchito really suffers because although his brother's not as strong as him in education, Panchito really suffers because he wants a great education. He is smart. He can have a bright future, but because of his responsibilities to his family, he has to keep moving around. But hard work. Like within the center of the story, you get this idea of hard work, of dedication, of family responsibility. And sometimes it comes with a price. Panchito, the kids do have to pay because of their lot in life. They have to sacrifice their future for the present because this family is just trying to survive day by day. They have to survive day by day, and nothing's guaranteed for them. And they have a lot of want in life. There's a lot of things missing in their lives. Panchito wants education. I'm sure that the kids, the life that they had, the younger kids don't understand. But Panchito and Roberto, they understand their lot in life and how they really don't want to be where they are. And their father, he's just trying to do the best that he can, trying to keep his family alive, trying to provide. But it's still, it's when you're an immigrant, you have no papers, you have no documents, you're being taken advantage of. You're working 12 hours a day and you're getting paid $15 for your work. What can you do? It's not like their father's a bum. It's not like their father doesn't want to work. It's just that the level of pay that he's being offered, his situation with being in the wrong culture. He's from Mexico. He doesn't speak English. He can't speak up for himself, advocate for himself. Throughout the short story, it's the mom who speaks a little bit more English. She's the one that's speaking to these farmers to get jobs, and that from a man's perspective, you know, he can't fully take care of his family. He's doing the best he can, but he can't speak English. He can't fulfill all of his responsibilities as a father. He's doing the best he can, but his family's suffering, even though he's trying as hard as he can to protect them and save them and keep them. So it's a very hard life for the father within this work. But Panchito, I would say he suffers the most because he understands most clearly his lot in life, and where his family stands, and how difficult life is for them present and how it will be difficult for them in the future. And you can sense a little bit of depression and devastation from Panchito, because at the end of the story, when the boxes are packed, just how abrupt and crisp the story ends, you kind of see like it's like total blow that I finally found something that I can be proud of, and maybe I can improve myself, and then I come home and bam, we're moving again. So the short story kind of finishes with this air of disappointment, this explosion of, or this finality of dreams broken, because coming home after finding a teacher that was going to help you develop yourself, coming home and pretty much your parents are saying, we have to go again, we have to find more work, we have to find more money to support the family. It's horrible. It's horrible. And that's how the story ends. But that's all I have to say about this short story. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.